Hey, folks. Welcome back for another episode of This Week in MeteorJS. As you know, we are covering some information today regarding our content. And not just our content, but potentially a lot of other content that's out there. We're going to be talking about how our content is, why some of our things that we have are not going to be up anymore. And we're going to get to that a little later on. But there is a bigger discussion going on with regard to internet content, the preservation of it, and whether or not the things that we think are going to be around will still be there. We're going to be covering some of that today. And again, we're on the road to Impact 2025. So we'll be also discussing some of the topics that we're going to be covering or approaching come September. But first, let me just let you know that this is episode 96 of This Week in MeteorJS, a weekly newscast of the MeteorJS Dispatches podcast. My name is Alim Gafar, streaming to you live from New York City. And I got to swap things around a bit and bring our other guest host in.
Hello, everybody. Dvorak, coming to you live from Prague.
And with that, we are going to get started the way we always get started, with the news. So why don't we hop on over there?
Yes, indeed. So, speaking of disappearing, I have for you a lot of news regarding all the regulations and other things. So let's kind of first get to AI, our infamous topic that everybody is talking about. And we have that the EU AI Act is, or one of the parts is finally came into enforcement. So, and it's the big thing about this is it's the first regulation of AI or on AI. So it kind of follows the tradition of EU regulating on things. And as with all or most regulation, it's a mixed bag. I think, especially when they started drafting this, AI was still very early on. So this is, think 2-3 years back when they started working on this, where AI was and what was the environment. And of course, now everything is completely different, which is the problem with regulating such a fast-moving industry as AI. The complicated things even more is that in EU, I could say these regulations on EU level are not, the actual law. It is then up to all of the individual states to implement it. And as is usual, they all of these implementations has its own differences and quirks, and some are more, more accommodating, and others are more strict. So it's as always in EU, it's a mixed bag. So everything, and so it's very hard to kind of figure out what's going on, how it's going to be implemented. So similar like with GDPR, Alim, if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's almost a decade, I would say, or it's going to be soon be. So I still remember to this day when I went to an official GDPR workshop, and the lawyers there started told us, we have no idea. It will really depends on the courts to decide on case by case basis, and that's very similar with this as well. But here from Splunk, they have this nice table with an overview of how it is. And one big thing is what it does. It divides AI into potential dangers and where it could be. So of course you could say the military grade medical one. That's the most dangerous, where you have the most strictest regulation. And as you kind of go down to the generic AIs and other less dangerous areas, then you have less, stringent regulation. And I think this is kind of nice table that kind of summarizes things as they are, because it has, that what is good and what's likely to be really good is the split of responsibilities, where kind of manage things. And I think this especially goes determining when you're determining how high risk your AI is, and based on that what you have. But as with any legislation, especially the ones that take years to go through, there's a big question mark about how much future-proof it is, and how much it accounts for use case specific. And big one is about risk-based, specifically to innovation, which is a big problem in general.
So let's take a breath for a second here, because you're saying a lot of things, and I think it's going to overwhelm people sometimes. So let me ask a couple of questions here. On the right-hand side of this table, it says likely fail in the balance, likely pass. What does that mean? Are these are they saying that these particular challenges that they list on the left-hand side still need to face some kind of approval process?
No, this is likely pass. How much it's going to be, long term. You could say it's going to have a good or negative effect, or if it's going to be relevant. So if it's going to pass the test of time, I think that's
okay. The test of time is what that's covering. All right. Well, prognostication is not something I think anybody has ever done very well. It's always kind of great to put your bets out there, and maybe what we should do is build a like a MeteorJS prediction market, right? to kind of take some bets on some of these things to see how they'll play out over the time, and then people can come in and play that and see how well they're predicting, their predictions work out in the end. It's I have to say, I think the idea of putting guardrails in, sort of like, here's a framework under which AI can proceed, is I think that's reasonable. I think having things kind of like open-ended and broad, the argument always is that it's done on behalf of the small businesses, but who are the ones that actually win? It's the Googles, the Apples. We've seen this again and again, right?
That is the biggest, I would say, problem. Like anytime any regulations are introduced, the biggest winner are the big corporation who can pay the money to hire all the bureaucrats, all the other professionals that are going to fill out the paperwork and have it done, which is sometimes very difficult for small businesses. On the other side, this is actually something that EU has been getting better at. There was another law regarding to platforms or large platforms, and that specifically stipulates that until it's not applicable to you, or at least kind of the most stringent things, until you have like 200 million users or something like that. So that's a good kind of step. And this is also where the different you could say categorization of AI comes in, which is very neat, because unless you are in law enforcement, military, or medical or anything like that, where you need to have more controls, more stringent checks, then a lot of the stuff, a lot of the really scrutiny is not going to fall on you, or at least not as hard. And there's always then the question of copyright, which is another large discussion and talk on that.
Well, we've seen like the large corporations, the ones that have the money, that claim that there would be harm. The companies that have the billions of dollars that they're getting, the hundreds of billions of dollars of valuation, that are claiming that they can't pay copyright fees because it would just destroy their business. I think, to me, it's a lot of baloney, right? It serves them well, and it allows them to, keep more profit to themselves. And let's be honest, getting into the LLM game, doing frontier work with these kinds of AIs requires a huge amount of money up front anyway. So it's not as if this is going to keep small players out of the game, because small players don't even get to play the game. So I think the idea, by the way, of doing these carve-outs with, when you get to a certain revenue level, or when you get to a certain, membership level, that then, sort of like the more stringent guardrails come into play, makes sense to protect small and emerging technologies or businesses being able to access the market. I think that's actually a really good thing. But I do think that just having no guidelines whatsoever can lead to a lot of harms, and we have seen a lot of harms happen over time. So especially in social media, we've seen this. Yeah, go.
The biggest issue there is when a lot of the reporting starts applying to you. So for example, if you train your own model, then there's a lot of paperwork, especially when it comes, for example, to copyright and documentation and everything. You can get actually around a lot of it by being open source and kind of developing everything in the open. But it's definitely something that, if you're around, AI, you should be watching, because EU kind of has become, with GDPR and later laws, kind of the trendsetter worldwide. So you can, this is kind of the first stage what's going to be eventually probably tried in all the other jurisdictions.
Sure. Here's the thing, though, right? I mean, GDPR has been around for 10 years. And when it first came out, there were lots of companies that were saying this is going to kill business. We're gonna see everything fall apart. And internet commerce, internet social activity is still happening, and it's happening at a much higher rate than it was 10 years ago. So I think that there's always going to be a pushback from, the private concerns that don't want to have this friction. And they don't want the accountability. That's the other part too.
Yep.
That is going to push back against this and say, well, this is not going to, this is going to disadvantage us, and this is going to disadvantage our country, from playing, in this space. But the United States, I think, which has said like, oh, this is going to hurt us, it's going to hurt our ability to compete globally, is still the global player. When you take a look at all of the big companies, all of the big tech companies that have to go through the GDPR gateway, the big ones are still in the United States. I don't see that it has disadvantaged them that much. It might have imposed a little more cost, but geez, Louise.
Well, that's
these countries. How rich are these companies?
Well, yeah, that's part of it, because they're rich enough so they can afford to do that, or kind of play the game. But I think this is a big part why, if you look at EU, there isn't that many tech companies, or if any, or usually kind of it's an open secret whenever a company becomes big enough, especially in the IT sector in EU, or at least usually like within 2 years, if it's a success,
it goes
immediately go to America. Go to America, because the laws.
Here's the thing:
it's not just GDPR, but the
this
business
was happening
law
before GDPR. This was happening before GDPR, and that's because there is a well of money in California, and it's easier to access that money than it is in Europe or anywhere else in the world, for that matter.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest parts. So, for example, with Little Universe, when I ask, here in Europe, I'm looking for 100,000 euros. People start fainting. They want 90% of the company. And when I say, 100,000, dollars in America, it's like they're looking at me, what, you don't want?
Why aren't you asking
million?
for more?
What's wrong with you? What is this, tiny business that you have here? That's don't come to us until at least we want 1 million. So that's one part. Another part is let's say the other incentives that EU has, ESOP and all the other things. So, which is missing in EU completely. So you cannot really give give your employees incentives.
Don't you think part of this is culturally the tolerance for financial risk?
I would say that plays a little bit, but I think that has
I think it has a lot to do with it. I mean, VC companies lose tons of money on ideas that they throw into over here, right? And there's, in a sense, if you're a sophisticated investor, you understand the game. If you put your money in, there's a big risk that you're going to lose it. And if it happens, it happens. I mean, how many winners are there? There are not that many winners. And VCs over here, they tell you straight out, right? We're looking for that 1 in 100, 1 in 10, the 10Xer, right? The one that's going to shoot to the moon. Mm-hmm. We really don't care about a business that might be a good business, but it's not going to be a monopoly. Peter Thiel has come out straight and said, if you are in the business of just being a business, you're a fool. What you should be going after is a monopoly. I'm not stating it the way exactly he said it, but his view is, and I think the central view of the Valley is that we're looking for businesses that can be monopolies in their category. I don't think that that resonates well in Europe or other places in the world.
If you say that, all the regulators and everything is just going to really start getting their hands. Okay, now I can get you all the fines and everything for being a monopoly, and I can punish you for being good. But let's move on, though. We stay in Europe, and we'll come back to EU because there is just so many things. And another thing that came out, and this is Theo's reaction to it, is, and let me scroll down here my notes, is the Online Safety Act that has hit UK. And the Online Safety Act is, let's say, continuation and expansion of age verification, but it's much more than that. And the classical sales pitches, we need to protect the children, so all the online adult websites and social media websites need to have age verification, which I would be fine. I do agree partially that it is kind of pushing the responsibility away from the people who should be the most responsible, but I kind of agree with the general sentiment. The problem which we have seen or which I've seen over my entire life with laws like this is that then it's just an excuse for additional censorship, and usually the original premise of protecting children gets very quickly lost as
it gets weaponized.
It gets weaponized, it gets lost, and it actually sometimes makes things even worse. And we've seen, there have been a lot of memes around this, how children are getting around it, either through VPNs, or there's like a game that's so photorealistic that you can move it, so they use that to overcome the photo verification. And another thing we actually saw is, because there is an additional thing, what should be censored or restricted on social media, but it has the provision that the regulator can change and adjust these topics as they wish, without the need to go to the legislator for approval of that. So they can change it on a whim, and within 12 hours they started censoring anti-government posts. So I think that's kind of the problem. So I don't have anything against the premise, but as always, it's the freaking implementation when this goes. And not a big problem. And before I jump in,
I think that there needs to be layered responsibility, right? I agree with you. Parents have a responsibility for what happens with their children and trying to do their best with it. But most parents are not like us. They're not in our field. They don't really know. They're just consumers, and when they take a look at tech, they only see it from the consumption side. They don't really understand. Many of them don't really understand how to set things up. And, there are a lot of dark patterns that are used on applications to make it much more difficult to tune things the way you might want to. Yep. So we have to take those things into account. And I think holding companies responsible for, saying, here are the controls, do it yourself, right? We're going to pass it on to you, but we're going to make it really, really clear how you can do this, how you can restrict things. And we know, for instance, that, engagement is the currency on most of these platforms. And if you don't have engagement, then you basically have either a dead space or a dying space. And so there is an incentive for a lot of these firms to make it much more difficult for you to filter and censor, if you want to use that word. But filter, let's use the word filter, out things that you might not prefer your children seeing or others. And so, and it may not even be, by the way, pornography. It may be things that just get them freaking angry, and then cause them to go into sort of like the spiral. So I think the idea of finding ways to protect children's spaces as they learn how to use the web, as they learn how to use the tools on it, to make it a place where they can actually, you wouldn't put a playground in the middle of traffic, right? You would put it someplace where they're less likely to be, hit by a car or a truck.
Well, another big thing is, it's much more easier to do these verifications in real life, because just show me your ID, you're right there, you can compare it much more. It's much more difficult on a web, and the biggest problem I say with this is that it's the platform, it's the websites that are responsible for managing this, which I don't think is a good approach, because if they want to get it, then they'll make it easily overcomable. Or bigger one, and this was also Theo's point as well, is which of these websites and companies have the proper data security management, because you need to upload your ID, all that stuff. If anybody gets to this, that can be used for identity theft, and it's a freaking nightmare.
I think though that having some of this friction is a good thing, because there are companies out there, there are people that put ideas up there that have they have no sense. And I think one of the examples you're going to probably bring up is a T app, right?
Yeah.
Which is, I believe that was vibe coded, right, or something.
No, that's a meme.
That's a meme. Okay. But in any case, it's one thing to be able to build an app, but when you're talking about building something that's going to be used by a lot of people, it's not just build the app. You have to understand the security environment that you're in, and you have to build for that. In terms of just how many people might use your app, you need to figure out things like scaling and so on. So just building an app is not enough. Having an idea is not enough, because there are a lot of other things that go into it. Just as if you were going to set up a restaurant, it's not enough that you know how to cook. You're going to have to source your ingredients. You're going to have to be able to get staff. So, I think it's great to have an idea and to have an MVP, but then once you've gotten past that and you've got real people on it, you have a responsibility as the owner of that application to do the things in order to protect the data that is coming into you. And anyway, I mean, why don't you bring up the T thing, because there are details there that I'm touching on that you're going
to. Don't really want to get into what we're doing, because I have quite a huge objections to it. But it was one of the things that they have there was verification, of course, of your age and gender. So that meant you had to upload your IDs and everything.
Yeah.
And of course, somebody...
They also made a promise, right? They made a promise about what they were going to do with it.
That they are going to delete the data once you're verified.
Yes.
But somebody found, their bucket, which of course was unprotected.
An S3 bucket, right? Amazon S3 bucket, yeah.
Or something like that. So they got in, they got all the images for I think all the verification before December 2024, and when they made it more secure, and of course they leak it. So that is the biggest complaint.
Yeah, effectively doxing all of their users, right?
Yes, or most of them.
Yeah. So up to that date, yes.
Yeah. So that, and then chat messages leaked as well. So it's a big problem. It kind of goes, you kind of need to know what you're doing. And I kind of want to bring it up because I think this is something where, interestingly, in Czechia, I don't know, maybe in our countries, we are a bit ahead of this, because we have quite a few interesting, let's say, identity providers.
Yeah.
We have my ID from the Czech domain registrar. So that's a very interesting one. But more interestingly, we have bank ID. So you can verify through your bank, which is awesome if you're, if you go to a website that has know your customers regulations applied to it. So you just log in with your bank ID, don't have to do anything else. It's there. And third one, we have official, cannot say this, online login from the government itself. There actually is multiple options for that. So I think, it's not perfect, but I think that's much more better when it comes to registrar. So I think if any regulation to this effect, with age verification, all that should be put or should be made. I think there should be some really, good providers or something to that effect that can, make it easier for the companies to, use that and have the proper, how I would say it, proper flow and everything, you could say at least secure to the government standard that that it is. Because if I think about it, like if you are putting the ID, then that's a government issued ID. If you're like want to go to buy alcohol or something like that, they're not going to accept some ID from some, say, private club or something like that, because they have no idea. So that I think is going to be a big development, and another
that's
part
one of
of
the
that.
places, by the way, where if you have ID on blockchain, that that could be
WorldCoin, yeah.
That could be is WorldCoin, is that what WorldCoin does? I don't know.
If I remember correctly, it is, it scans like your retina, everything. It's the idea behind that is that it kind of verifies that you are human.
Yeah.
So
that
really? You exist. Yeah. Which I like, and I think this is something that kind of has to come to social media to kind of have something like WorldCoin or WorldCoin itself, so that then you can check, I only want to interact with real people or something like that. So that's why I'm kind of
I'm just thinking about this as sort of like an identity provider. So your government documents are used to then generate a token or something that identifies you, who you are, and then what you can do is you can transact with that particular piece of information, whether it's token, whether it's whether it's sort of like a one-off hash or something that is used to kind of like verify that you are who you are. There are, I don't know that that's a clear solution. It might be a solution, but by the way, we haven't used the word JavaScript or MeteorJS in a bunch of minutes now. We haven't really talked about any of that, and so I'm just looking at the chat for a second there because it's on my other screen and I have to kind of lean over to see it. So, it is, these are really broad and big issues that face development, whether or not you're a Python developer or JavaScript developer or a MeteorJS developer, or whether you're building on a platform. These are, I think, the big and large issues that we're facing right now that'll constrain the kind of development that you're doing, and we need to be mindful of it. Is there anything else beyond this? I mean, we spent a lot of time here also.
Yeah, let me just go to the next one, back to EU before we go to America. And this is the reason why I am so skeptical and kind of have a lot of misgivings about the EU, because sometimes they can do a good legislation, or maybe part of it, and then they come with this crazy thing, which is
what is it?
So this is, they want it's again, I would say it's kind of EU. It's officials like EUC scanner proposal. In a sense, what they want is a law that will govern private messaging, and it's still in a discussion. But right now, Denmark is heading the EU, and it's one of their priorities to push this through, and they want to have access to all private messages. And the discussion is if there should be, if the access should be granted only if the person is like already of interest or something like that, or if all messages should be scanned for any violations of any law or anything like that, which for me, in creative writing, sometimes we have to not just like in private messaging, but like in searches, everything, we talked and search for stuff that if you are not careful, or it would kind of sound a lot of warning bells. So you have to, for example, research at one point mental health, and then maybe something with in relations with explosives and other things. So for
you
us,
guys have been living life easy. We have a program from the NSA called PRISM that's supposedly been scanning all U.S. traffic, for
the
years
insidious
now.
Well, the insidious part is in this case that this would also include encrypted messaging. So the companies would be forced to unencrypt everything. So this is something to kind of keep on watch. The thing is, proposal like these everywhere. This is not just EU or America.
Oh yeah,
they keep on coming back because there's just
absolutely,
there are just certain people that want to have this power. So
yes,
something to kind of be mindful. And speaking of,
so what can I ask you? Like, what kind of tools do you?
Alim.
What kind of tools do you use for?
I don't hear
protecting.
you. That's my side.
What kind of tools do you use? Can you hear me?
Sorry, that's my side. Looks my headphones run out of battery, so I'll have to switch. So
okay,
go ahead.
No, I was asking you, what kind of tools do you use to protect your communications right now? Do you use any encrypted messaging tools? Do you recommend any? Okay, I was asking you. Okay, and I'll ask you again. I said, what kind of tools do you use right now to protect your messaging? Do you use any kind of encryption tools? Are there any that you recommend? I think Proton Mail was something that you were looking into a while back for emails, but like, what else is there for like real-time messaging? Can you hear me, Jan? I'm gonna have to go on. Hang on one second. Can you hear me? So we have a private chat that we can use among ourselves here in the studio to talk to each other, but I don't know if Jan is hearing anything right now. Jan, maybe you should go to speakers. You should use speakers. Okay, hang on one second, because this is not working out here. My safety. So I think Kelly was responding back to the discussion that we had on private communication, and he said it's for your safety, though. I think he's being sarcastic. So we'll see where that is. All right. So anyway, I wanted to know what Jan uses, but he has some technical difficulties. We're going to move on to the next thing that we were talking about, where we're talking about the Internet Archives itself, that they might not even be safe from or immune from censorship or not so much censorship. Can you hear me? I can hear you. You're speaking, I think, Czech right now. Jan? Okay. That was interesting. So there is an article out there from Engadget that says that the Internet Archives are now an official U.S. government document library. I'm not quite sure what that means exactly. The Senate has granted Internet Archives federal depository status. There are a lot of libraries across the United States, university libraries, that have that status. So I guess that it gives the Internet Archives that. I'm kind of curious how this is going to work out, because the Internet Archives has been struggling for years with funding to stay alive and to keep going. And does this mean that the U.S. government is going to fund the Internet Archives? And then, of course, once it does that, is it going to take a look at what the Internet Archives covers and suggest that there are things that it should focus on or things that it shouldn't? Or if the Internet Archives are now taking care of government documents, is that going to limit the resources that they've got to use for other things from being applied there? So are we going to miss out on other parts of the internet being archived simply because they now have an obligation, or they feel that they have an obligation? I don't know if this is an obligation to handle documents for the U.S. government. So this is kind of interesting. I'm kind of interesting to see what's going to happen there. And yeah, I think that's a concern we have overall. Okay, but again, this is sort of far afield from what we typically talk about here with regard to the channel and MeteorJS. So we're going to get back to that in a couple of minutes. It's not like we're skipping it all together, but there was so much that was related to the topic that I'm bringing up today, which is what's going to be happening with some of the episodes on this channel. So all of this you could view as a lead into that topic. And that's where we are right now. So let me talk about what's going to happen on this channel. We are going to be removing some of the episodes that are on it. And some of it is simply housekeeping. There are some videos that are up there that talk about us not being there for the week, and we'll be coming back the next week. I don't think that those have any real abiding value to anyone out there. It's just a notice to say, hey, we're gone this week, and we'll be back another time. So those types of videos that we have are probably going to go. We're also going to be looking at the currency of the information that we have. So if we have an episode that has code that no longer works with the latest release of MeteorJS, we might either do an upgrade to that in a future episode, or we may just remove it altogether because it would be misleading and it would frustrate users from their usage of it. But then the other part of our cleanup, if you want to call it that, is simply to look at episodes that are not performing, that people aren't looking at, and then just retire them, because we have over 100 episodes at this point. And when I say episodes, it's not just the week-to-week TWIM episodes. We have, some deep dives. We have other types of content that we have put up there. So again, it's one of those things where I think we need to, remove them and retire them so that when people come to our channel, they're finding information that is really relevant to them and is meaningful and current. So that's the point there. Jan, are you back with us?
Yeah, apologies for the technical difficulties.
Yeah, so let me throw back to the piece that we were doing just a second before on this, because I had a couple of questions to you on that,
okay.
Which was, number one, are you using any kind of protected communication today?
Yes.
And what would you recommend if you are using to others?
So it's always a bit difficult because you want to choose something that other people are using as well in your circle. I have been very happy with Signal. That's
Okay.
what I'm using. That's pretty good. There is Telegram, but I've kind of steer clear of it because there is a lot of say communities and other scamming things on there. So
okay,
but that's just my you could say
sure
experience. So Signal is the one, and another one which I've been looking at for a while is to actually kind of roll my own private communication. So and I think this might be another interesting trend in the future, that you kind of have your own, that you run on your own servers, probably at home as well, set of open source things to have, to have a place where to save files that you can access, online chat. And the name just escapes me, but
is it built with MeteorJS or Node or?
Sadly, no. This one I'm thinking about is originally built with PHP. I think they might still be on it. It's primarily focused around.
Maybe it's time to get some of these projects as a rewrite in MeteorJS, right? So we can keep it relevant to the. Go ahead.
Well, it's in this case that would be kind of with Meteor files and similar, because the main thing of it, the core is just file storage.
Sure.
That you can access, that you can kind of put on your own drive, access it, online. But there's a lot of extensions, and one of them is private or messaging that you have on there for your family. So my my idea in the future is, once I have family and everything, that to kind of have that set up, so
Sure.
the family chat and everything is on our local servers, and that's where it stays.
Right.
So
All right,
that's
and then
on that.
as far as email, you were using Proton Mail for a while. Are you still using that?
Yes, I'm using Proton Mail, and I'm very happy, and it's kind of growing its offering. So it has Proton Pass, it has Proton Drive, so that's
Sure.
what I'm currently using for, like, file storage and similar. So it's expanding to kind of have similar services like Google, but of course encrypted
Yeah.
and all that stuff. But the thing with Proton is that there is another, let's say, privacy breaking law that's right now going through the parliament in Switzerland.
Okay.
And they are considering moving out of Switzerland, where they are currently based, because in the past, Proton Mail had they are still based in Switzerland with a lot of their stuff, specifically because of privacy and neutrality law. But that might be changing. So that's why I said previously that all these laws are worldwide, and they are constantly keep appearing, and it's there. So, and yeah, I'm also using Proton VPN as well, because it's part of the package.
All right. Well, listen, I want to say hi to Simon and Kelly and Harry, who are on the chat right now. Hey, guys, it's great to see you. I don't know who else is there. I'm sure there are probably some others that I'm not seeing right now because I don't want to scroll through the whole thing. But it's good to have you here. And I know that we've sort of like jumped off the rails, so to speak, to this. So we're going to bring it back in, because recently we had, and you'll probably talk about this a little later, I mean, Meteor 3.3.3 is out, and part of the improvements have been to the build process. And a while back, the build process has usually been, the transformations in the build has usually been done through Babel. And a while back, and Meteor build, right? And now we've been talking about Vite for a while, and that is a different open source project to swap out for that. So you have some information about Vite that people could learn more about it from. What's the story there?
Yeah, or specifically on October 9th, there is a Vite documentary coming out.
Okay.
And it's from Cult Report, formerly Honeypot, and they have done documentaries on, I would say, the most of the top tech, like in the open source or web open source world. So there is one, of course, on React, Ruby on Rails, a lot of stuff around different Python options. Vue is there, and
so
and
they
of course,
changed their name, huh? The
out.
channel. I remember Honeypot, but now it's cult.repo. Is that what it is?
Cult Repo. I'm not sure that's very recent. I haven't had a chance to really look at, but yeah, I highly recommend to check out the channel and check out their documentaries, because you learn a lot about the history of different tech. And if you go on Vue, then of course Meteor is mentioned there as well. Old MDG, MeteorJS, MongoDB, all that stuff is there.
Speaking of MDG, let me just throw something at you, which I don't know if you've got information on this, but you know that the team at MDG, back in, I think it was 2015, 2016, they started doing this GraphQL stuff. And then eventually they became Apollo, a separate company. And pretty much everybody from MDG went over to Apollo. I got an email this week that Matt DeBergalis, and I don't know if it's DeBergalis or DeBergalis, how you pronounce it properly, but Matt, who was CTO of Apollo, who, by the way, Matt and Jeff Schmidt were the founders of Meteor software, right? The MeteorJS platform.
Yeah, MDG.
And then they founded MDG, and they got funding from Andreessen Horowitz, and it was blowing up for a while. And anyway, that's the product that we work with right now, this platform. They left that and they moved on to Apollo, and now they have a company called Apollo. I think it's called Apollo GraphQL is how it's listed today. And I just got an email saying that Matt is taking over from Jeff as the CEO of the company. So he had been CTO for a while, and now he's doing that. So for the guys that have been around for a long time, that have been following this, If you haven't heard, that's a bit of news that's out there. And by the way, if you're enjoying what you're watching today, and I know we went off the rails a bit on what our typical content is, please hit the like button and share the love. All right. And with that, I think, Jan, why don't we go right back to where we should be in a way, which is the Meteor news, right? So
yes, exactly.
Let's get onto what it is that we're all about here.
So first things first, you could say a reminder or kind of disappearing things. There used to be a Discover Meteor book, which was very popular and got a lot of people really further into MeteorJS at that time. Today, it's the website itself to go book.discovermeteor.com, and then you kind of get this ugly looking thing that allows you to download the PDF and loan the book's GitHub repo. And this book was written for Meteor 1 and really never got updated after that. So I've decided that if there is interest, I will be rewriting the book for Meteor 3.4 or whatever version will be in 2 or 3 months once I start working on this. So that might be coming back, and it will be rediscover.meteorjs.community. So that's where it will be. So please let me know if that's something that you are interested in, and I'll be, if there's enough people interested, then I'll be happy to work on this.
Harry's got some, there's a little side channel discussion with Kelly and Harry in the chat right now, pushing Harry to contribute to, I think, the Rediscover MeteorJS project. So what does he say?
Yeah.
I can always use a Wayback Machine to archive Meteor sources.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can use the Wayback Machine for Discover Meteor to kind of look how the website look, but you won't be able to get into it. So
the context behind Discover Meteor, and for those of you who weren't there, was when people came in, there were some examples that you could go to and use, and there was a lot of other code, but it became sort of the go-to resource for somebody who was trying MeteorJS for the first time to be able to sit down and have a great step-by-step process to build out an application and have it working. And it was, I mean, really, I think it's really well written. It progresses very well, and as a self-study tool, it was great. There was also, if I remember correctly, a My First Meteor and a My Second Meteor, like mini book. Do you remember those? There were tutorials.
I remember tutorials and the examples. I'm not sure if I remember anything else though.
Oh, okay. No, I'm sorry. I'm also looking at Kelly's response. So he wasn't talking about Harry and MeteorJS. He was talking about having Harry work, I guess, on a Meteor documentary. I don't know.
Oh, I think that would be in regards to the documentaries like Read and View, all those stuff that they have. So to my response to that is that we need to get the Meteor more popular for them to make, for them to even consider making Meteor documentary.
Yeah.
So because they want to kind of see the success story and something that they will be able to show to millions of people. So that's where we need to kind of head.
Yeah. So Kelly says, who needs tutorials when you have AI? And I think we're a little sarcastic about it. But here's the thing, which is, and to be really serious about that also, it's, I think if you were to sit down somebody who has no programming experience before and say, get this AI to teach you MeteorJS, there will be a lot of stumbling blocks. There will be a lot of issues. If you have no experience programming in the first place, you don't have a frame to work from. So I think that's one thing that we need to consider. The other thing is, depending on what the AI does, if you just say, teach me MeteorJS, it may go out and pull old code, and you might really have something very confused and you don't know why, right? You might be working with with fibers in some of your code, and and you don't realize that that's actually not going to work with your 3.3 code. And yeah, there's so many bits of confusion that can come in there. What is Kelly saying now? It's a friggin' origin story of postmodern framework. So I think Kelly really wants a MeteorJS documentary.
I agree. I just a quick insert. I found the solution that I was talking about for the home cloud. So it's Nextcloud.
Okay.
And it has self-hosting and other things. So that's what I'm looking for,
Okay.
and hopefully I'll have the
is
hardware.
Part of what this whole home labbing movement is. Do you know about home labs?
Yes, I'm not sure if this exactly is part of it, but it's definitely something that existed for a while. And I like it because you can just deploy it on your home hardware, and then you can get app for it which you connect to. So it's really nice there.
It's funny, and you're right. I mean, there were so many things that came out of the MeteorJS project. I mean, Vue came out of it. If Evan hadn't actually worked at Meteor and run into those problems at MDG, he probably would never have made Vue, and then we wouldn't have Vite because of it, right? So it's So Kelly, you never say anything sarcastic. I take everything you say at face value. It's really cool. By the way, speaking of cool little discoveries like this, I discovered something recently because I'm an idiot. And I did not know that for a long time. Well, here's a surprise. I have a surprise for all of you. Did you guys know that Harry Adele keeps a dev diary? Do we have a link to his dev diary? Harry, if you can, just drop it in. If you could drop a link to your.
I don't think he will be able to because it's not admin, so I'll do it.
Okay.
For him, and I'll put it up here as well.
Yeah. So he's been keeping a log of his activities working with MeteorJS for quite a while now. It's like over a year, I think, right? We go back like to the first one. Is that in 2024?
2024.
I had no idea.
It was even further.
Oh my gosh.
The obligatory my first blog post.
So and then a year later.
Impact. Yeah.
Yeah, Sasha designed me a logo. I do remember seeing that. I do remember seeing this a long time ago.
I don't even know about that.
So this is from Sasha Grief. Sasha Grief is the guy behind a lot of the surveys that we use today. But Sasha was also one of the fellows behind the Discover Meteor book that we were chatting about. And again, yes. So pretty cool. So yeah, so if you haven't had a chance, go take a look at Harry's blog, and then just, are you able to comment on any of the stuff that he's got there? He's just dropping his ideas, and then it's
and that's just the idea.
Oh, you can't slam him. Oh, Harry.
I think it's more like a static deployment. So
okay, cool. Yeah. So all right. So we've got that up there. It's Harry Adele, HARRYADEL.github.io/ I think you just go there, and then you can. I think the project is Dev Diary. So go find it. Go read his stuff. And Harry's he is on the forums, so you can always find him there. Go sign up at the forums if you're not a member. Go on to the Meteor Discord. We have links to all of those things in our description, so you could go there and then just reach out to the guy. He's a great guy, and I think it'll be fun to chat with him about this stuff. All right. Okay, let's move on.
Yep. So in other news, Radoslav has announced a new version of could say chain stream to Redis. Sorry, and as always, he has a lot of information, or lot of improvement. It kind of goes honestly over my head. He has a blog post on his blog as well that describes the the performance gains in much more detail, how to actually do it. From my understanding, the biggest thing that was adding namespaces properly into that, and together with with everything else in the new version, they've seen big reduction in fetch documents, which means things went much more faster, and it's much more focused stream. It's not the entire uplog just going in, but it's much more selected for the data that they actually need.
Exactly. I think by including the namespaces, they were able to filter it down to a small ratio of publications that gets listened to, and then gets pulled in. Here's the thing. I knew that he was working with chain streams for a while. I didn't realize that he was doing a chain stream to Redis, broker, if you want to call it that. So this, in a way, like, this is kind of old news, but it's also very much new news to me, because I didn't realize that this was the way the implementation was working. And he does have a lot of information there. I think it's a lot to try to go through, so I don't think we should. I think what we should do is just point people to it and say, go read it. And I think his blog should be required reading, because there is so much detail there. Is this a topic he's going to talk about at Impact? Do we know?
Let me pull up the exact topic he has. It's part of the topic. So his topic is a deep dive into Meteor's reactivity model. Okay. So he will be talking about uplog, mergebug, DDP, WebSockets, all that stuff. He will be actually talking about chain streams to Redis.
Okay.
And Redis to uplog, Redis uplog, and also DDP router, which is another project that you can also apply to scale reactivity even further.
Yeah. Which is, it's kind of interesting, because one of the things that he mentions in this is using the match operator, which then kind of triggered something to me, because the match operator is only using the aggregation pipeline on MongoDB. So at least that's what I remember. So it's very interesting how this is all working out, and I'd like to learn a lot more about it. I don't know if anybody else has the same kind of interest, but to me, that is really very cool, especially since in the past there has been a gating factor on the aggregation framework, and I kind of know where it was up to about 4.0. I haven't really played with the aggregation framework or cared about it much past 4.0, and now we're at 8 on MongoDB. Yeah. So I'd like to see. I need to go and do some homework and find out, if they've made improvements on the threading model in the aggregation framework, and if that also has led to this improvement in performance. So that'd be kind of cool.
Definitely, they have been pushing the aggregation, I think, framework quite a lot, and I have been using it.
Oh, you have?
I have been using it, but it's I've kind of started the tutorials a couple of times, but they are quite intensive, so I've never had the chance to finish. But thankfully, AI to the rescue, and with what I know, I've been able to really use aggregations for quite some interesting things. So it's a very powerful let's say tool. If used properly. I'll have to kind of see later on how well or not it's going to scale.
Yeah, so this is a great performance related topic, and I think Radoslav has done a lot of work in this, and actually testing it live in the field, which I think is pretty awesome, because it really shows that scaling and performance are not the gating factors that people believe they are, or have mythically applied to MeteorJS for many, many years. And so I think the more that we can get these examples out there, and one of the things I think, one of the things that he's pointing out that I believe is really relevant is how much of this is how you set up your environment and how you set up your systems. And so MeteorJS, when you think about it, is not just a single, application. It's built upon other components, right? There's Express in there, there's MongoDB in there, right? So there are these other things that are in there. And why should we just limit ourselves to just thinking about the things that come bundled in that stack? When we think about our applications and how they're going to perform, we're not going to say, well, MeteorJS also needs to handle reverse proxies, right? We're going to use Nginx, right? Or something else.
Mm-hmm.
And in the same case, when we're thinking about scaling our performance and looking at how we're going to, deal with, long-standing queries and queries that are or event handling, why should it just be in that stack? Now we have the Redis oplog, which is sort of outside of it. Well, which is outside of it, but it is now part of the ecosystem because it's been built that way. Why can't we use that? And so I think we have to think much more creatively when we're thinking about building MeteorJS applications than just simply saying it's got to be solved only within this bundle that we get from the MeteorJS project. That's my thought on it. By the way, I think what'll be really great contribution to this is if in his talk, either he does this as part of it or does a separate talk on performance auditing. And a terrific takeaway that anybody could benefit from is a PDF or an online app that actually goes through step-by-step performance checklist. I think that could be a really great way of getting people to get over that fiction that MeteorJS doesn't scale or it doesn't perform well in your data center. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
No, I'll wait for Impact. I think it's going to be one of the top talks.
I've been a terrible producer. I've just kept that thing up there while we've been chatting. And
Yeah,
all right, folks, listen. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. We'll keep on going with this. Otherwise, we feel unloved. But I think if you subscribe to the channel, you'll be notified when new episodes are coming, and that'll help keep us motivated. And are there any reminders that you have for the folks?
Just a reminder for Meteor Impact. It's coming up in about 2 months, so sign up. There is a is it Lumes site, so that you can that one is the big one that you need to sign up for and kind of get officially your ticket, and that's what I'll be using to kind of send in or send out the link to join into the classroom. So
okay.
it's on there. It's on the top when you click on the sign up. And if you are so inclined, you can also send there's a voluntary ticket fee that you can put in, or you can just come in for free.
Yeah.
And I think that's it for me.
Okay. No community survey?
Well, I don't have the presentation here.
We'll bring it up next week. All right. So just know that the MeteorJS community survey is coming up, and we'll talk about it next week. But for now, folks, thanks for joining us this week. And I keep looking at the chat. I have to keep looking past one computer to another, one screen to another, in order to do that. That's why I'm kind of bending like that. But folks, thanks for joining us this week. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Same time, same bat channel. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And end the stream.
Yeah, at the total end, we have some for balls.